Have you ever felt like a place wasn't meant to exist? I didn't, until I found the forgotten room. Years ago, my friends and I rented an old mansion for the weekend. Hidden behind a rotting tapestry in the basement, we found a locked door. Jake, the curious one, forced it open. Inside was a freezing room, empty except for a massive cracked mirror. At first, it seemed ordinary until the reflections stopped matching our movements. Shadows in the glass grew clearer, forming twisted versions of us with hollow eyes and gaping mouths. When Jake said, "It moved," I saw my reflection smile, only I wasn't smiling. We tried to leave, but the door was gone. The whispers started then, faint but growing louder. One by one, my friends were pulled into the mirror, their screams echoing until they vanished. I couldn't save them. When it was my turn, I felt cold hands grip my shoulders. My reflection stared at me with empty eyes as the world shattered around me. I woke up outside, alone. The mansion was gone, and no one believes me. But sometimes, when I look in a mirror, I swear my reflection smiles back. Mark loves hiking in remote areas. On one trip, he notices strange, large claw marks on the trees and hears faint whispers, though he's alone. Suddenly, his watch malfunctions, skipping ahead 3 hours. Confused, he decides to return to his car, but he keeps finding himself walking in circles. After hours of trying, he hears a voice calling his name. It sounds like his own voice. Panicked, he runs in the opposite direction, only to stumble upon his campsite, but it looks like it's been abandoned for years. Inside his tent, he finds a journal written by someone with his name, describing everything that's happened to him. Except the last entry reads, "I will never escape, but at least I'll have company now." This story begins with the discovery of a lost Mickey Mouse cartoon from the 1930s. The animation, titled Suicide Mouse.avi, depicts Mickey walking down an endless gray street, his expression blank and lifeless. At first, the video seems uneventful, but subtle details grow increasingly unsettling. The background starts to distort, the looping animation becomes irregular, and faint static fills the audio. Mickey's expression changes, his eyes drooping, his smile fading into a look of despair. As the video progresses, the visuals degrade further. The background warps into chaotic, abstract shapes, and the audio becomes a mix of static, whispers, and distant screams. Mickey's body begins to distort unnaturally, his movements jerky and inhuman. The final moments of the video are the most disturbing. The screen flickers violently, and a deep, guttural scream pierces the audio. Text appears on the screen. The sides of hell bring its viewers back, and the video ends abruptly, leaving a sense of dread. Rumors about the video claim that it causes viewers to experience nightmares, hallucinations, and even suicidal thoughts. Some believe it was created as a psychological experiment, while others dismiss it as a hoax. Regardless of its origins, Suicide Mouse.avi remains one of the most iconic and unsettling internet horror stories. The story opens with a group of friends on a nighttime drive, filming their journey for fun. The mood is lighthearted as they banter and joke, their laughter echoing through the quiet, empty countryside. They're taking a shortcut through a rural area, confident they'll find their way back to civilization. However, as the drive continues, they begin to notice something odd. They keep seeing the same landmarks. At first, they laugh it off, blaming poor navigation. But as the repetition continues, the realization sets in. They're trapped on a loop. The sign that reads "No Through Road" becomes a haunting symbol of their predicament. Tensions rise as they argue about which direction to take, with each failed attempt deepening their sense of dread. The environment becomes increasingly hostile. The road seems darker, the air heavier. Then, the figure appears, a shadowy silhouette standing still in the distance. They joke nervously, trying to rationalize it as a trick of the light, but the figure is always there, closer with each loop. Their fear turns to panic as the figure becomes more defined. Its features are indescribable, distorted in a way that the human mind struggles to comprehend. When they finally stop to confront it, the camera cuts out after a chilling scream. The final seconds of the footage leave viewers with nothing but questions and an oppressive sense of unease. Some interpret the story as a metaphor for purgatory or a time loop caused by a supernatural force. The ambiguity makes it terrifying, as the viewer is left to fill in the gaps with their imagination. Deep within the heart of a forgotten forest, a small village named Black Hollow lay shrouded in perpetual mist. It was a place untouched by time, where the wind never howled and shadows danced of their own accord. The villagers lived in quiet fear, never daring to speak of the whispering shadows, a legend that spoke of entities lurking just beyond the veil of sight. Eliza, a headstrong and curious woman, had grown tired of the whispered warnings. She was new to the village, having inherited a crumbling manor from a distant relative. Determined to uncover the truth behind the village's eerie silence, she began exploring the forest against the villagers' advice. One evening, as the fog thickened and the moon hung low, Eliza ventured deeper than ever before. The trees closed in around her, their branches twisting into claw-like shapes. The air grew colder with each step, and she could swear she heard faint whispers just out of reach, as though the forest itself were breathing. She stumbled upon a decaying chapel, its walls etched with symbols she couldn't decipher. Inside, a faint light flickered. Drawn to it, she stepped inside. At the altar, a blackened book lay open, its pages turning on their own. The whispers grew louder, morphing into voices that spoke in unison. "We see you. We feel you. We are you." Eliza recoiled, but her feet refused to obey her instincts to flee. Shadows began to seep from the corners of the room, pooling around her. They twisted and writhed, forming human-like figures with hollow eyes that seemed to pull light from the room. "Who are you?" Eliza managed to choke out, her voice trembling. The shadows responded not with words, but by merging into a single entity, a grotesque, towering figure whose features constantly shifted, cycling through phases of agony. It reached out with a hand that was both skeletal and fleshy, brushing against Eliza's forehead. Suddenly, she was no longer in the chapel. She stood in her manor, but it was wrong. The walls bled black ichor, and the mirrors reflected not her image, but her deepest fears. A voice boomed around her, deep and guttural. "You sought us, and now we live within you." She felt her body convulsing, her reflection in the mirror distorting. Her eyes darkened until they were nothing but voids. Her screams echoed in the empty halls, but no one came to her aid. The next morning, the villagers found her manor silent and abandoned. Eliza was gone, but her face began appearing in their reflections, her hollow eyes staring back at them. At night, whispers filled their homes, speaking of secrets no mortal should know. They knew the truth now. Eliza hadn't just uncovered the whispering shadows, she had become them. The forest remains silent, and the villagers live in fear. But every so often, a new traveler comes to Black Hollow, drawn by tales of a strange and misty village. And every so often, the shadows whisper again.